This is probably going to be my shortest video, and the simple reason being is that they don't really have that many really powerful characters in comparison to the other two shows. Don't get me wrong, the upper echelon of power in Legacies are really powerful, as in the top 5 most powerful characters in the entirety of the verse. Majority of them happen to be from Legacies. However, that's pretty much it. Like, you will know when I start going through the list as to how much I have to scrape at the bottom of the barrel to actually get these characters. Now, there might be some random characters or one episode characters that I did not remember that happen to be really powerful. And of course, if I did miss someone, then let me know in the comments below. But first, I'm going to talk about a character, or well, a species that I'm going to exclude. And the reason why I'm going to have to talk about them is because people are going to ask exactly where they are. And of course, I'm referring to genies. Yes, genies are really powerful, but they're going to be excluded from the list. Simple reason being pretty much the exact same reason why Malivore was able to easily absorb all of them, which is that they are pretty much useless on their own, as in their powers work specifically based on other people making a wish. If another person doesn't make a wish, they are basically useless, as in they're weaker than Matt Donovan. Meaning, if I manage to put them in a 1v1 against anyone in the top 10, they will lose. Hence why they're not here. Powerful, don't get me wrong, extremely powerful, easily could be in the top 5, but yeah, they can't really be here because in a 1v1 situation, they would not win any fight. Again, like I said, they are really weak, like pretty much human level. But anyways, as always, if you like the video, like, subscribe, and let me know your rankings in the...
Here we go. Look, technically, I was trying to kill you and your sister, but that's all over now, so I say we just move on.
Move on. You're a monster.
Yes, I know that Kai is extremely powerful. Yes, I didn't know that I said that Kai is extremely powerful. But in those videos, I am specifically talking about Kai just before he became a heretic. As in currently the Kai that had the full access to the entirety of the power of Luke and Joe. The same Kai that was powerful enough to take on his entire coven and was winning. However, this is Heretic Kai, and some people actually have the bit of the misnomer on believing that Kai is somehow more powerful as a heretic than he was as a coven leader. He really wasn't. Now, I understand exactly why you would believe that, because usually that's the case. But the main reason why Kai is ranked that highly is because of all the power that he actually added to his already very powerful ability of siphoning. Obviously, I'm referring to the combination of Joe and Luke's powers. He lost all of that, meaning the only power source that Kai had as a heretic is from his vampirism. Vampirism that isn't really powerful because he is not really that old, especially in comparison to the original heretics. Some people actually have Kai above the heretics, which doesn't make any sense. But the main reason why I believe that Kai is a lot weaker is not just because of the fact that he lost access to the majority of the reason as to why he was powerful in the first place, but because he doesn't really use his vampire side that well. As in, he's not really a physical type of fighter, he's more of a witch guy. He specifically favors magic, he rarely uses his vampire ability. He's still very powerful, but in comparison to the other heretics, he kind of falls short very drastically. Because the other characters that happen to be hybrids of witch and vampire actually use both constantly, in addition to using their siphoning ability. Hence why Kai is ranked here.
I already did.
Caleb and Kai can be interchangeable, and the reason why Caleb is even on this list is because he became a hybrid. More specifically, a hybrid of a dragon and a vampire. However, there's a major problem with regards to exactly how his abilities work, which is that we actually don't know much about what he actually became. All we know is that he has all of his vampire abilities and he can breathe fire. That's it really. I don't even remember him flying. I don't know if his skin is impenetrable. I mean, in an illusion that was made by Ken, it was somewhat shown that he was able to be killed by wood, and Cleo was able to believe it, meaning that he can actually die by wood, which shouldn't be the case because he's also a dragon. And as we've seen with hybrids in every single show, if anything with regards to a hybrid's mortality is actually contradicted, they will go with the one that makes it less likely for them to die. For example, in Klaus's case, White Oak Ash and a Silver Dagger could easily incapacitate any original, as in they're basically somewhat dead. But not for Klaus, because Klaus is a werewolf on top of being an original vampire. Stake and a hybrid also wouldn't work because a werewolf doesn't die by that. However, that's kind of contradicted of Caleb, hence why he's kind of ranked here, mainly because he might be ranked higher, but I don't really know much about his abilities. This is as far as I could possibly put him based on what I know.
This thing can't kill me, but it can sure as hell kill you. Go!
Not our style of leadership, right?
Speaking of style.
I mean, that looks dope, but what's it gonna do?
It'll protect Ben, so long as he wears it. If I'm right.
Booyah! I know submissive behavior when I see it. You nailed it, Cleo.
It looks like it's thanking you. Seems like my curse is also its curse.
Cleo is basically very similar to what I said about Caleb. Yes, Cleo is supposed to be very powerful because Cleo is a Fury, but we only really had 2 episodes of Cleo being a Fury. Well, at least being able to actually display her powers as a Fury. Therefore meaning we barely know anything about what they're actually capable of. We just know that just like in mythology, Furies are able to judge people and will become a spirit of vengeance, but we don't really know if that actually gives her any additional ability. We don't even know if their judgment is somehow final, as in a judgment specifically makes reality to the point in which it becomes fate, as in you die because they judge you that way. We don't know much about her. The reason why I even have her ranked here is because of what she was as a muse. If we actually get to see more of her as a Fury, then I could possibly bump her up, but we didn't really get much from her. As a muse or regular witch, she's very powerful. Obviously, her main asset is the fact that she kind of can just create anything out of nothing. So she can just create spells just like that. And she will know the weakness to anyone that she fights, which is a massive boost when you go up against people that are extremely powerful and you might assume that they're invulnerable, but if you have someone like Cleo who could probably find a way to beat them. It doesn't mean that she would, but she could find a way to do that. Obviously as a witch she's very powerful, tend to be really relied upon when hope isn't there. But as a witch, she doesn't really do anything spectacular enough for me to actually believe that she is that powerful. But as a witch, she doesn't really do anything spectacular enough for me to believe that she's actually that powerful.
Dude.
Oh, that's so gross. You know, I'm still hungry. Okay, that was embarrassing. Still getting the hang of my new powers, so bear with me. Speaking of, don't leave this room. I'm saving you for dessert.
Whatever you say, dude.
Oh my god. Thanks. I'll give you a closer look when I get back. Right after I kill Hope Mikaelson.
The reason why Lizzie is here is simply because, unlike Kai, Lizzie actually uses the full capability of being a heretic. As in, she uses both sides along with her siphoning ability constantly. In fact, I believe Lizzie is probably the most effective heretic that we've actually seen. A lot of the time, heretics tend to lean to either being too much of a witch or being too much of a vampire. You have physical heretics and you have more magical heretics. Lizzie is consistently both, because Lizzie's biggest weapon is her siphoning ability, and Lizzie was powerful enough to siphon off Ken, so yeah, there is that. Obviously as a regular witch, Lizzie isn't really that powerful. It was pretty much very evident from the very start. She's very much volatile and very violent sometimes, but again, she isn't really that powerful and she is not really known to be very strategic. Obviously up until the very end of the show. After she became a heretic, she became very strategic. She actually learned how to use her powers. She was somehow able to siphon off Ken. At the start, the first time she actually tried to siphon off Ken, she nearly died from it, but later on she was able to siphon from him without dying. Although she wasn't able to take off all of his powers. but she was able to succeed with a plan that she was going to do anyways, which was to siphon off Ken's powers to use it to explore the area that Ken was standing in, therefore automatically weakening him, which allowed obviously our allies to be able to deal the finishing blow. So yeah, Lizzie's here above Kai, above Cleo, above Caleb, because she was able to utilize all of the ability that comes with being a siphoner, and also utilize all of the ability that comes with being a witch, even though she was relatively new to the power.
I'm so sorry.
Josie. What did you do?
I fixed her.
The fact that Josie's here, you know exactly that I'm referring to Dark Josie. Now, Josie on her own is very powerful, but nowhere near the level of power that she had as Dark Josie. Obviously, Dark Josie was her when she had a lot of dark magic, but she was somehow able to control all of it and was able to keep it within her, which kind of doesn't make much sense, and it contradicts everything that we know exactly about how siphoning works. And like I said in the plot holes video, it is a massive plot hole because siphoning magic tends to drain out very quickly, and Josie somehow had that power source forever. But anyways, Dark Josie is really powerful enough to contend against Hope. Although I do believe that Hope, even at that point, was still a little bit more powerful than Dark Josie, probably even outright more powerful than her. But that still would be really, really powerful, seeing us exactly who Hope is. And Hope is one of the most powerful beings in the entire verse. She was also powerful enough to easily turn on somebody's humanity switch, although she couldn't do that with Hope because, as she said, Hope is way too powerful for her. And she was shown being able to one-shot certain characters and was able to blow up the entirety of the Salvatore boarding school with minimal effort. So yeah, I do believe that Dark Josie is really, really, really powerful, and I do believe that she is ranked somewhere around here. Within Legacies, of course. With regards to witches in general, I just have her just outside of the top 10, which is still very much really, really powerful.
The Triad combined their blood, using black magic to create a golem capable of consuming the dragons. They spelled the creature to have an insatiable hunger, but their spell also made it unable to harm witches, werewolves, or vampires. They named it Eater of the Dark. When the dragons in human form returned to collect the treasure from all the villages they had attacked, it was waiting for them. It took them. It consumed them.
Malivore is where the power scaling problem actually begins, because technically speaking, Malivore could beat everyone above him, obviously except for Hope. Now the reason why is because he's kind of invulnerable to most of their powers, and of course they can't really kill him, and his powers apparently works on even them, including gods and goddesses. To the point in which they went into hiding because of Malivore, because they were scared of what Malivore could do to them. Now, the main problem with Malivore, and it's actually very funny, we had over 3 seasons with this guy and we don't really know what his powers actually is. It's all basically a whole bunch of assumptions. We kind of assume that Malivore probably has the power cell of everyone that is actually absorbed, but there is not really any showing of the case. We just know that he's completely immortal and he's very cunning and he can absorb people, but that's kind of it really. We actually don't have much powerful things that Malivore actually did other than creation. That's it. That's why when you actually would want to put him up against other people, we don't know what he could do. We just know that they can't really beat him because they can't really kill or damage him. Even if he took his head off, he would still somehow survive. In fact, not only would he survive, it wouldn't really affect him in any way. He would still be very much conscious and just operate like nothing happened, as in his head and his body would operate like nothing just happened. But yeah, don't get me wrong, by logic and canonical sense, Malivore is really powerful and should be ranked here, but I have no idea what exactly his powers is. Which again is crazy because Malivore lasted that long, all the way to season 4, and we didn't really get much with regards to exactly what he can do. We just know that he absorbs people and has an infinite dimension within his body. And also is practically immortal except for obviously Hope's blood. But again, that's it.
If this is too weird for you...
Better?
It's still kind of weird.
This is my true form. Or at least, it used to be. Varying souls for a few millennia takes quite a toll on one's skincare routine.
I'm sorry, but what is happening?
You're cute when you're flummoxed. I thought we could chat, get to know each other a little. My name is Lynn, by the way. And that was home. Peace. Or some like to call it Valhalla.
That means you're a...
God? We didn't know it at the time. We thought we were normal. It wasn't until we met humans that we actually understood that we were different.
Lane is going to be a quick one because she doesn't really show much. There's not really any fight scene of her. The only reason why she's ranked here is because she's a goddess. And therefore she should be this powerful. Especially based on the fact that we know exactly how powerful Jen is. And Jen is basically a baby in comparison to Lynn and Ken, who are siblings. So of all assumptions, she should be really, really, really powerful. But we know for sure that she's definitely weaker than Ken, of course. And I might assume that she's more powerful than Jen, but she doesn't really have any showings, whereas Jen actually does. Hence why Lane is ranked here. The only time she actually fought anyone was when she fought Hope. But at that time, she was still the fireman, and she kind of lost that within seconds, as in Hope basically easily manhandled her. And again, seconds, the definition of a low-dip fight. But I would assume, obviously, as the fireman, she would be a lot weaker than what she normally would be as a regular goddess. But yeah, not any showing for her to be ranked higher.
Well, I'm a pacifist, so I don't really want to hurt you.
Don't worry, you won't.
Sorry, tiny angry dude, but you don't want to know the things that you think you do.
First of all, ow. Second of all, now I really need to know.
Then for what it's worth, I really wish you didn't.
Hey, bitch.
Okay. Whatever you two are, I want no part of it.
Not an option, apparently.
Well, then it's time to get high.
Well, you don't see that every day. What the hell is she? If I had to guess, a god.
Now, obviously, Jen and Hope are very much interchangeable. I know you're going to believe that Jen is probably going to be second. Don't get me wrong, I do think that she could be second too, but also I could actually have an argument for Hope being second. But that's mainly because Hope was able to fight Ken and was able to contend with Ken for a while, especially while he was weakened. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think that Jen could also have that level of showing if she wasn't outright terrified of fighting her father, but I do believe that Ken is still much more powerful than her, and therefore would ragdoll her, so I'm kind of torn with regards to exactly how she would perform in the final fight against Ken. Now, obviously, I don't believe that Hope is anywhere near as powerful as Ken is supposed to be, and I believe that that whole fight was specifically won due to the fact that there was actually outside help. Most importantly, obviously, like I said earlier on, Lizzie. Obviously, Jen is very much a pacifist, so she doesn't really fight that often and therefore isn't really that much of a skilled fighter. But like we saw when she first met Hope, she is really strong and really fast. I mean, she was able to lift up a multi-ton sarcophagus and chucked it at Hope, and it was so fast and was so powerful that Hope could not react to it. Her only reaction was to block, but even with that, she was still sent flying to the point in which she literally nearly blew up a car. Her only reaction is to block, but even with that, she was still sent flying into a car to the point in which it outright destroyed the car. So yeah, with regards to strength, she's very powerful, although we didn't really get a full 1v1 fight of her and Hope. But based on the way that the altercation went, I would definitely have her in my top 3. How you would rank her and Hope is entirely up to you.
Oh, I think it's broken.
But you do know the truth. You're scared of your own humanity coming back. Of feeling what it felt like when you killed Landon. All that sadness. Cling to your defense mechanism all you want, but when it crumbles, and it will, you'll have an even bigger mess than what you had before.
Look who's you.
Even the almighty Tribrid can't outrun her trauma forever. Watch me.
Now, how you would rank Jen and Hope, like I said in Jen's section, is entirely up to you. But the reason why I have Hope above Jen is simply because Hope, unlike Jen, is a fighter. As in, Hope would fight anyone and isn't scared of anyone. Unlike Jen, who is terrified of her dad, and Jen would not come to fighting if it isn't a last resort. As in, there is no other way. If she was like Hope in any way, then we would have actually seen her fight Hope after Lizzie showed up and was able to siphon her. She just didn't want to fight them and literally just bounced. However, with Hope, Hope would have fought both of them. Therefore, meaning with regards to formal combat training, Hope is very likely a far better skilled combatant than Jen actually is. Although I believe that Jen could probably be as powerful, if not more powerful than Hope, I do believe that Hope would have a better showing against other people than Jen would, because Hope is just better at fighting than she is. Now, obviously, the reason why I talk a lot about Hope's fighting ability and not mentioning anything about magic is obviously if you actually watch Legacies, you will know that magic does not work on any god or goddesses. So her magic would not work on Jen. All she can do is simply fist fight her. Now, obviously, before the Ken fight, if you would say that Jen is more powerful than Hope, I would easily agree with you. But obviously, before the final Ken fight, there is an argument for Hope being above Jen. Now again, I'm also very torn about whether or not I would have Hope second or third, simply because it is all about speculation whether or not I believe that Jen could actually fight Ken the same way as Hope did. But again, like I said in Jen's section, it is entirely possible that she could fight Ken at the same level and had the same amount of success as Hope did. Obviously, with regards to everyone below Jen, Hope is by far more powerful than all of them. Malivore, she is quite literally the only person that could defeat him, in fact, permanently. And obviously everyone below her, she can literally easily one-shot them with her magic. And if her magic doesn't work, like we saw with Josie, she could literally just use her physical side to easily overwhelm them. So yeah, she easily would be in the top 3. How exactly you would rank her in the top 3 is entirely up to you. She's definitely number 1, but you could have a second or third. Or fourth if you actually believe that Lynn is more powerful than both of them. And to make matters worse, Hope doesn't really have many feats against really powerful people. The only one that she really does have is against Aurora, who is a really powerful vampire, but that's not really that much of a powerful showing, especially if you're going to have her ranked as highly as people tend to rank her when you are talking about every single character in the entirety of the verse. As in, some people say that Hope is the most powerful being in the entire verse. Obviously, those people don't make any sense, but my main point is that Hope doesn't really have much showings, and Legacies is entirely made for Hope to be the main character, so she should have that much showings, but she well enough doesn't. There's not a lot of feats for her. Literally, the most feats that she actually have is how good she lost. She didn't lose that badly. That's the most powerful feat that she had, mainly because of who she went up against. That obviously being Ken, who is going to be
Magic doesn't work on a god.
No, but it can be very distracting.
Be careful what you wish for, child. It took me a lifetime to control all of my power.
Ken is number 1, man. Ken is pretty much way too powerful for anyone. No one being could beat Ken in a fight. It's impossible. Ken is just way too powerful and just way too invulnerable. Now, there's some people that's going to say, well, what about Hope? No, Hope is not anywhere near as powerful as Ken. Hope wouldn't have won that fight if she didn't have that much help like she did in the fight. Lizzie was there as support. In fact, I would say Lizzie played as much of a part of defeating Ken as Hope did. And later on, there's Cleo and the entirety of the Super Squad. Some of them didn't really do much, but there was some really good team players who did a lot in that fight to get Ken to that point. Obviously, there was a bit of a problem of how they defeated Ken because for some reason, Lizzie was able to somehow hold Ken back. As in when they were fighting, Ken wasn't able to move his arm, which doesn't make any sense seeing as how easy he was able to toss around Lizzie earlier on in a different fight. And also how easy he was able to toss around Hope in both fights. But for some reason he couldn't. He somehow was struggling to move his arm against Lizzie, who is a baby vampire. But yeah, they needed a lot of armor to beat him. That just goes to show how powerful Ken is. Yes, Ken is not only the most powerful being in the entirety of Legacies, he is easily and by far the most powerful being in the entire verse. Like, it's not really a debate. That's kind of a really. But anyways, that's it for the series. Like, hype, and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so yet.